All right, fight fans. We had some heavyweight action this afternoon in a WBO interim title match between Zhilei Zhang and Joe Joyce. It was Zhilei Zhang with the upset. I'm gonna start by saying that I got this fight wrong. I actually had Joe Joyce by decision. What I thought was is that even though Joe had 14 fights, 14 knockouts, I thought that when he stepped up in competition, that this could be a fight that he could maybe show more of his skills and he would win by a decision. To be honest, I didn't think that he would knock Zhang out. I thought it would be a close fight, but I still thought that Joe would win the fight by decision. Instead, it was Zhang with the stoppage in the sixth round. Now, let me start by saying that I have no issue with Harold Foster calling the doctor in and then waving the fight off, because there was a minute and a half left in the sixth round. So that would have been 6.5 more rounds that Joe would have stayed in there and took damage to that right eye. Zane could just not miss with that left hand. So with that, let me start with my pros and cons. Let me start with Joe. My pros would be that he went in there with his bread and butter, which is he's going to win this fight with his power. And I have to respect the fact that he gambled on his power, that he would get the guy out of there. Maybe he read the press clippings that said that this fight wasn't going to go the distance, and he figured that he would go with what got him there. I thought that he did a decent job, not only going up top, but going to the body. But let's get to the cons. Joe had zero head movement. He had zero body movement. He reminded me a lot of Ricky Hatton, except for the fact that Ricky Hatton at least used to kind of be herky-jerky in and out. Joe was just straight on the line. His head was straight on the line, and there was just no way that a fighter like Zhang was going to miss with that straight left hand. I mean, he didn't adjust at all. Even after the first round, when he felt the power, knew what it was going to be, he just never adjusted. He seems to not have a plan B, C, and D. It seemed like his only plan was, I'm going to knock this guy out. As for Zhilei Zhang, the pros would be, I like the fact that he stood tall. I like the fact that even though he was in the pocket, he still gave himself enough distance so his left and his rights could have some damage on him, being his jab and the straight left hand. I thought that he did a decent job trying to sneak the uppercut in, even though I'd have liked us to have seen a few more uppercuts. He said that one of his keys was going to be the straight left hand followed by the right hook. I don't think he threw that combination enough. I guess that'll take me into my cons. I don't think he threw that combination enough to, kind of keep Joe honest. I think that he realized that he couldn't mess with that left hand, and he fell in love with it. Let's talk about the fight a little bit. 6.5 rounds, action-packed, heavyweights, two big men. Zhang in there at 278. Joe came in at 256. Standing in front of each other and banging it out. Now, I have always said that I'm a fan of seeing a little bit more skill in there. What I mean by that is seeing a little more of boxing instead of just standing there banging it out. But that's what Joe wanted to do, and Zhang took him up on it all the way to that sixth round where he closed the eye. And you can tell that by round, I want to say 3, when Joe was cut under that right eye, that Zhang was going to target that eye until he closed it. And it was very clear to me that Joe could not see out of that eye, because before his eye was closed, Zhang couldn't miss with that shot. And once the eye closed, you could tell that Zhang wasn't going to stop throwing that left hand. Joe wasn't going to be able to stop it. And that's why I agree with the ref to stop the fight. So let's talk about what happens from here. For Joe Joyce, this gives him a chance to go back to the drawing board. And by the drawing board, I mean his team needs to figure out a way to utilize his skills. They need to, I hope that they figure out that if they don't change his style, there's going to be a blueprint to beat him. Kind of reminds me of Arthur Abraham. When Arthur Abraham fought Jermaine Taylor, even though Jermaine Taylor lost that fight and he was knocked out in brutal fashion, Jermaine actually laid the blueprint on how to beat Arthur Abraham. And if you watched Andre Ward and Carl Froch after that fight, it was very clear that they used the same blueprint to beat him that Jermaine Taylor had set. I hope that doesn't happen for Joe. I hope that Joe's team gets back to the drawing board and figure out, hey, if we do this and it's not working, we can go to plan B or we can go to plan C. He's still young. He has time to recover and get back. He's just not on the championship road as he was before this fight. As for Zhilei Zhang, Let's see him in this rematch against Philip Horgovic. And I hope I pronounced his last name wrong. Now, I did not see that fight, but I am going to watch that fight within the next couple of days to see it with my own eyes, because there were people who said that he was robbed in that fight. I can't comment on it because I honestly didn't see it. But if that is the case, I would love to see him take that rematch. Listen, he didn't really take any damage in this fight, so I don't see why he couldn't fight maybe midsummer. If he doesn't get that fight, what do you all think about maybe Derek Chisora, maybe Kubrak Pulev, or maybe even Luis Ortiz? What do you think about maybe him fighting some big heavyweights like that and getting another payday in there? Now, of course, if Tyson Fury or Usyk come calling, I'm sure he'll answer the call. But I'm not quite sure that just because he beat Joe Joyce and Joe was in line, I don't necessarily think that means that he should necessarily be in line. But I understand if those guys call and it's a bigger payday, why not get in there and see what you can do? But I would love to see him maybe take one of those 3 fights I mentioned, or maybe the Phillip rematch. Well, what did you think about the fight? Who did you pick to win? Did you pick Joe like I did, or did you go with Zhilei? Did you think that maybe he could pull the upset? And what do you want to see him do from here? Do you like the 4 fights that I laid out, or is there maybe another path that you would like to see him take? Either way it goes, I would love to see this man in the ring again. A 6'6", 280-pound southpaw heavyweight is just something that you don't see very often. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so we can keep talking boxing. Other than that, that's all I got. Holla at y'all later.